We are going to talk about the Fighting Irish right now. And they are playing Boise State. And this was one of those games that we looked at in the preseason, and we assumed Boise State will be in its usual position of fighting for that group of 5 spot in the playoff. And I realized that only happened last year because it was the first year. But Boise State, obviously, the most consistent winner in the group of 5 conferences. They opened the season with a loss at USF. They've since won 3 in a row: Eastern Washington, Air Force, and Appalachian State. But are they good enough? Will this be a good enough win that if Notre Dame wins this, it will help Notre Dame? Because that's going to be our question pretty much every week with Notre Dame is, do they need style points? How do they stay in the playoff hunt after dropping the first 2?
So we did allude to this a little bit over the weekend, but I think it's a good 5-minute conversation.
Mm-hmm.
There are a large faction of Notre Dame fans who are adamantly convinced at the moment that they control their own destiny to the playoff. And I hear things like, if you win 10 in a row, you come in hot. If the teams you lost to are very good, they'll forgive you for those. All those things. I think Notre Dame, if they finish 10-2, and if you look at their schedule and how good they are, I have a hard time seeing them losing again. Now, NIU could pop up or Marshall could pop up. It's college football. You never know. But as I'm looking at the schedule right now, I firmly believe that, Notre Dame is a top 10 team in America. People will roll their eyes at that. But what I saw against Arkansas and Purdue, a lot of teams are going to struggle to beat that team. If they get there, it will be impressive, but it's not a stone cold lock. Their resume will look similar in the aggregate to Miami's last year. Miami didn't get in. Now it'll be different because Miami lost late, and Notre Dame will
and the Georgia Tech and Syracuse losses were not considered as
understandable.
Right. So and the thing is, Miami this year might be the best team in the country. Texas A&M might be the best team in the country. Miami, I feel fairly confident, will be either in the playoff or very much in the playoff mix. We think Texas A&M will, but their schedule the rest of the way is pretty tough, so we don't know that for sure. I think that matters too.
I take great exception to the notion that it is a stone cold, no doubt about it, lock. I think they would get in if I had to pick yes or no at the moment that Notre Dame. I think that it would play out that way. But I do think that Notre Dame fans, as disgusting as it is, should have been rooting for USC last week.
Yeah.
Because
NC State lost to Virginia Tech.
Right. So I think you can just basically say right now that Notre Dame is not going to have any sexy quality wins at the end of the year. So you have to hope that there's carnage.
You're just giving up on USC like that?
I am, yeah. Sure, certainly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, all right, so you're giving up on USC. Like, USC still has to play Michigan before they play Notre Dame. Obviously, they play Oregon at the end of the season. Like, if they get it turned around, it'd be fine. But also, if they're capable of beating Oregon, they're capable of beating Notre Dame, which is another problem in general.
Yeah. Here's the thing. They're absolutely a 2-loss team if they're going to serve the purpose that Notre Dame needs them to serve. Like, they've already got their second loss.
That's the best you can hope for if you're Notre Dame.
That means that they can't lose any other one. And based on what I saw on Saturday, the proposition of that, especially like even if you take Oregon out, like the proposition of them not being a 4-loss team at the end of the year seems dire at the moment. So at the very least, they're not going to be having any wins over playoff teams, which is what a quality win now is.
Right.
So they might have 2 losses against playoff teams, but and I do think that the committee does take into account like winning streaks and like given the way
I think the committee also takes into account what does it look like when you're in the game against a playoff team, because
they do.
That's who you're going to play in the playoffs is fellow playoff teams.
When you zoom out at the end of November and in December, those are secondary criteria.
Right.
The primary criteria is win and loss.
What are your best wins?
And what are your best wins? So, but my question to you, because I went on a Notre Dame show over the weekend talking about this. I wrote a column about it on Saturday. Because of where their losses occur, is there still some of that old-time BCS, lose early, win 10 games in a row, and just based on where you'll be like ranked every week because you'll just steadily move up as everybody loses around you? Do you think that that plays a factor? Like, is it possible that Notre Dame could play its way into like number 5 by November without beating anybody good because everyone's losing? Or do you think the committee will be seasoned enough, which I do, to not move them very much week to week because their resume is not improving?
One, I think the committee will be seasoned enough. And two, I don't think, like, even in the BCS era, it didn't actually work that way. Like, remember when Oklahoma lost to K-State in the Big 12 championship game and still made the BCS championship?
Yeah.
Like, that happened. And so my freshman year at Florida, this was pre-BCS, but it was the Alliance. Well, the loss came in the last regular season game against Florida State. Still wound up in the championship game in the Sugar Bowl. Like, because some things happened. But
if you use the BCS for 12 teams, then it would have worked because the BCS would have allowed you to move up over the time, and then you might end up finish number 5 instead of number 2.
I think the committee will be much more critical of what do your wins look like and what do your losses look like. Who did you win against? Who did you lose to? I do think they're much more critical of that, and probably starting later in the season allows you to do that because you, at that point, have a pretty good idea of where everybody is.
You agree with me that it's not a stone cold lock that 10-2 is in?
Oh, I agree with you 100%.
Okay.
And I think a lot of it depends on everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
I think let's try to put a percentage on it right now. I would say if
80.
Notre Dame goes 10-2, 80% is a very fair assessment. 80% chance they get in, 20% chance they don't. So 4-5 they get in, 1-5 they don't.
Especially if the season continues to go the way it's going. Everybody is losing. So, I think what Notre Dame's worst nightmare, this is nightmare fuel. And I don't know how it would have to play out in the next month and a half before you realize it. But if Notre Dame is being directly compared to a team at the end of the year, like last year's Alabama, last year's Ole Miss, or last year's South Carolina, where those teams are 9-3,
and they have a lot better wins,
14 and 15, and they're at number 11. And like Alabama, for instance, has a win over Georgia on their resume, and they're 9-3. They will pick the team from the SEC. And I hear a lot of, brands and money and all that stuff that does not take into account. That's not how it works. It's not going to work that way.
Also, Alabama is just as big of a brand as Notre Dame.
Yeah,
so
and Alabama
doesn't
was
matter.
left out last year while Indiana and SMU went in. So if your idea of like brand awareness and television eyeballs is like rigging the system, like I think you need to like grow up because that's not.
Yeah, true. I don't think that's going to happen. But I think what you suggested is exactly right, because a 3-loss SEC team is going to have better wins than 10-2 Notre Dame,
like
just by default.
Like, I'm trying to think, like 9-3 Oklahoma, 9-3 Alabama, 9-3.
Oh, so Producer River, put up Alabama's schedule, please. We already know one of their losses is to Florida State, so we can more easily figure out who they beat to get there. But I'm just going through their schedule now. So to finish 9-3, which means they could lose 2 more games along the way. So let's say they lost to Oklahoma
and
Auburn. That means they've beaten LSU, South Carolina, Tennessee, Missouri, and Vanderbilt, which among those teams, somebody's going to win 9. There may be somebody who wins 10 among those teams.
And I think you could also make the case that 4 or 5 of those wins are better than Notre Dame's best win.
Yes.
Now, I don't know, like if USC, what they'll be. If you have confidence that they'll be 9-3, then maybe you could make that.
I don't have any confidence. Navy is going to be considered a pretty good win, I think, by the end.
But when they beat Navy 63-10, it won't.
But that's you can't punish them for beating the hell out of a good team.
I know, but it happened last year.
We
saw it happen last year. Like
I know it happened last year.
About like Navy and Army last year, and then they played both of them and killed them. And it was like, oh, that was fun while it lasted. Like it goes away.
Yeah,
the committee people are human. Like they know. Like it's not like I don't know. They'll probably get in, but the only people who think it's a stone cold lock are the people who are wishing that it was.
Nothing lets you relax and chill and makes you think, oh, I've made it. Like a cold, crisp Modelo. And if you are listening to this, you're a college football fan, you're a full-time fan, you can stay game day ready all season with Modelo. Some things in life just made for each other. Peanut butter and jelly, macaroni and cheese, Modelo, and college football. So no matter what's happening in your world, whether your team's number one, whether your coach is in the hot seat, you name it, grab yourself a nice cold Modelo, crack that thing, tip it back, and enjoy. It is the beer for full-time fans.
I love it.
It's interesting because I think you're talking about a subset of Notre Dame fans. I actually find Notre Dame fans to be the most logical and reasonable of old line, big time college football fan bases. Like they usually take a pretty critical eye. So I don't think what you're talking about is most of the fan base. I think a lot of the fan base is sweating this out. So I don't know if we're helping them or hurting them talking about this, because I do think we keep bringing up the 20% chance they don't get in at 10-2.
But now, I think it's like a 95% chance they are 10-2. Like that's the thing.
That was where I was going with that. Because I was about to ask you, who do you think can beat them on the rest of their schedule? I guess USC maybe, but the way Notre Dame plays, we just saw USC lose to Illinois. Like Notre Dame plays in a way that is antithetical to how USC succeeds. Like
Notre Dame
they don't succeed against teams that play like Notre Dame.
If Notre Dame loses, it will be another upset loss that felt like NIU. It might not be as embarrassing, but like that's not going to be a game that we're going to be able to see. That is
utterly disrespectful to USC. Ari, utterly disrespectful.
No, they are not.
I'll
do
run
understand what you're saying. Miles, and you can film me if they lose to USC. It ain't going to happen. All right,
we got to bet.
Like, and you're in this bet, you don't have to put anything up.
that is how confident you are. I get you. I get you. Notre Dame style, USC style, bad matchup for USC. Yeah. But now, one more question before we let everybody go. Does Notre Dame need style points?
I think it always helps. I think perception, like again, the people in the committee room are people, and beating the crap out of it kind of works like two ways though. Because it's like if you beat the crap out of everybody, then like it makes your case for having a challenging schedule go away. Because it's like, well, you didn't even have to break a sweat against these losers.
Yeah, beat the crap out of everybody. Root hard for Texas A&M and Miami. That's probably the best advice. Like what you want ideally is if you're Notre Dame is ACC champion Miami sitting there with a bye into the playoff, SEC champion Texas A&M sitting there with a bye into the playoff, and you go, look, we were in one possession games with those teams, beat the hell out of everybody else.
And you don't even have
we should get another crack at them.
The Boise poker chip, which would have been like if Boise was the undefeated group of 5 champ.
It's still possible. Boise State loses this game, goes 10-2, and wins the Mountain West. Like it's not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, and maybe it will, and maybe that will be perceived as a quality win. Because the quality wins, it's not just which playoff teams you beat, it's which teams are in the final rankings. That's how the metric is used.
And there's a good chance Navy's in there. So there is a little bit of a chance here. But I worry because, like you said, USC losing to Illinois hurts. NC State losing to Virginia Tech hurts bad. Like you needed NC State to be the surprise team in the ACC, not the team that lost to Virginia Tech.
Because there's a lot of people who try to draw back like reference to last year, Andy. They're like, well, Indiana didn't beat anybody last year and they got in. Indiana was already 1 fewer losses than you have through 4 games.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were being compared to 9-3 teams, and the 9-3 teams did not get in over them because they had 2 fewer losses. If Notre Dame has a similar resume to Indiana at the end of the year, that means that they have no quality wins and 2 losses, and then that's when the door opens for Alabama, Ole Miss, and South Carolina. If Indiana was a 2-loss team, I guarantee it. I won't be able to prove it.
Wouldn't have gotten in. They would not have gotten in. Yeah.
So, keep drawing comparisons to last year's Indiana and last year's Ohio State, which beat 2 playoff teams in the regular season. Those 2 situations do not apply to your team this year as bad as you want it to. So, again, still feel good. I think that they're really good, and I think they're going to be 10-2, and I think they've got an 80% chance, if not a little bit higher, of getting in at 10-2. It's just the only thing I'm trying to stress is that it's not guaranteed.
3:30 Eastern, Notre Dame Stadium, Boise State at Notre Dame. This is going to be a story we follow all season because it's not going to stop being interesting.
Every week. Did you see the headline?
Notre Dame Tuesday. We want to have Notre Dame Tuesday. Is that what we're going to call it from now
on? Did you see the name of the headline of my column that I wrote after the game on Monday or on Saturday?
I don't think I saw that.
Okay, let me read it to you. Hold on. Okay, ready? It says, "Ready for the season-long debate about Notre Dame and the college football playoff?" ?
Ari just pressing the button.
I mean, like it's true though. Like we will be talking about this every single week, and nothing's going to change because we won't know the answer until we see how the rest of the sport shakes out.
Well, unless Notre Dame loses, then we just won't talk about it anymore.
And actually, one last thing, Andy.
Oh God, here we go.
Maybe, like, I think there's a high likelihood in the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you saw this, but Ralph Russo tweeted it, and it was the percentages of likelihood that teams in the SEC will win their conference. And he mentioned me in this. I got to find it. But basically, there's 7 teams like that. What we've been talking about with the SEC, for the past few weeks now.
Can I guess the 7 teams?
I'm trying to find the graphic. Hold on.
While you try to find it, can I start guessing teams?
Yeah, just for the sake of the podcast.
Okay, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee. Is that the 7?
That's the 7.
No Missouri. Shocking.
It's actually 10 teams.
Okay, so Missouri, LSU.
Yeah.
Vanderbilt.
Yep. Here are the SEC title odds per ESPN's S&P Plus, and this takes into account remaining schedule and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Ole Miss is the current favorite, 16.3% likelihood.
Right. Ole Miss is 3-0 in the SEC.
Yep.
5-0 overall. They play Washington State next. Ole Miss has to go 3-2 the rest of the way to make the play. 3-2 in the SEC the rest of the way to make the playoff.
Missouri, second, 12.9 because they've got a manageable.
They have an easier draw.
And they're undefeated still. Oklahoma is third, 11.1%.
That's interesting. Now, I don't know. Does that take the John Mateer injury into account? Because I think we'll learn a lot more in Dallas how good Oklahoma is independent of John Mateer.
Tied for third is Alabama at 11.1%.
Okay.
Fourth, Vanderbilt, 9.7%.
Mm-hmm.
Fifth, Texas, 8.5%. Sixth, Tennessee, 7.2%. Seventh, Texas A&M, 6.2%.
Probably the hardest schedule the rest of the way other than Oklahoma.
Yep. Eighth, Georgia, 5.2%.
Mm-hmm.
And tied for eighth, LSU, 5.2%. So I'm bringing this up in the Notre Dame discussion of like, there's a lot of 9-3 right there. So buckle up, dude. Like there's a lot of 9-3 right there. So buckle up because it actually makes me want to drop their percentage down to 70%. Because the SEC is going friends all over the place at the end of the year, and those teams are going to have quality wins, and they're going to be 9-3, and Notre Dame won't. Now, if
it's not even about the SEC being loud or the apparatus itself. It's just going to be. It's just here are the wins.
Yeah, here are the wins. So, and that doesn't take into account any surprises that pop out of the Big Ten and the ACC. That's just the SEC alone.
None of them are counting Arkansas as any of those wins, by the way.
Like if Indiana goes 11-1 again this year, there's a spot that's gone. If somebody from the ACC, if Florida State beats Miami and they both finish 11-1 and one win or whatever, or they both finish with 2 losses, and then there's a third team in the ACC that's 10-2 and doesn't get into the whatever. Like I'm just saying it's there. It's all right there.
No, it's going to be there are going to be roadblocks. So Notre Dame is not in control. All they can control is whether they keep winning. But even that doesn't necessarily put them in full control. And I think that's the general point of what you're saying.
Yeah. And it's difficult because I actually believe to the core of my being, deep down into my loins and plums, that Notre Dame is one of the 10 best teams in college football right now.
Right.
Now, people
I want to see this Notre Dame team in the playoff.
Yeah, I would love to see it. I think that they can make a run.
But them going 10-2 isn't necessarily automatically putting them.
And the thing
We'll
that
talk
sucks
about-
about having a really young quarterback who's never started in the first 2 games is that I assume or presume that CJ Carr is going to be very good at the end of the year.
It's
And I
pretty
bet
damn
their
good
offense
now.
will be he's pretty good now. Imagine how he's going to be playing in November and December like that. So, there's a lot to like about this team. It's just unfortunate that they don't have an opportunity because they lost to 2 really good teams by 4 total points too. They don't have the opportunity to prove it to the world that they're good because they don't play anybody good. So,
Oh boy, you know what I'm hearing? You know what I'm hearing in this ear? It's all the people going, join a conference. They're in the chat right now.
Yeah,
you know they are.
Yeah.